Code of Conduct Tribunal discharged and acquit Senate President Bukola Saraki over allegations of false assets declaration. Presidency mend fences with Nigeria Bar Association over suspended judges. Federal government witnesses at the trial of ex-National Security Advisor Sambo Dasuki to testify on screen. Hello and welcome to Judiciary Watch, where we bring to you the latest development in the Nigerian justice system on your preferred people's station, PTV. And I'll discuss this week.
Have to work hand in hand in unity that we proclaim we are united as one to give the African child empowerment.
In the mood of celebrating the Day of the African Child, Barrister IFEOMA UCHENDU WOGU of the African Women Lawyers Association of Nigeria will be highlighting ways of protecting children and women in Africa. Details of this and lots more of judiciary stories in just a moment.
Continue to watch the Judiciary Watch.
It brings information, awareness of legal rights closer to the people.
There's no program that is like it.
Welcome back. The Code of Conduct Tribunal sitting in Abuja has discharged and acquitted the Senate President Bukola Saraki in the 18-count charge of alleged false assets declaration filed against him by the federal government. The two-man panel of the Code of Conduct Tribunal, led by Honorable Danladi Umar, unanimously held that the prosecution failed to establish a prima facie case against the defendant.
It all started in September 2015 with the arraignment of the Senate President Bukola Saraki at the Court of Conduct Tribunal in Abuja on charges bordering on false asset declaration. Saraki pleaded not guilty to the charges and further made several efforts to stop the trial on the grounds that the CCT lacked jurisdiction to try him. The matter proceeded to the Court of Appeal and finally to the Supreme Court, where the Senate President lost the bid to stop his trial. Back to the CCT for proper hearing of the case, the prosecution team led by Rotimi Jacobs called for witnesses to prove the allegations against Saraki. After prosecution closed its case, the defendant filed a no-case submission arguing that the federal government had failed to establish a prima facie case against him. Delivering a ruling on the application, Tribunal Chairman Danladi Umar said that a careful perusal of the 4 witnesses and 48 exhibits tendered by the prosecution showed grave defectiveness as no prima facie case was established. He also held that no reasonable tribunal will convict the defendant based on the evidence produced by the prosecution. Defense and prosecution counsel were on hand and they reacted to the tribunal's verdict. After CCT dismissed the 18-count charge of false asset declaration against Saraki, the prosecution has the option to appeal against the verdict or allow the Senate President to focus on the leadership of the Senate.
Meanwhile, the counsel to the federal government at the trial of the Senate President at the Code of Conduct Tribunal, Rotimi Jacobs, has said that although no case submission has become a culture in Nigeria, he still believes it's too early to assume that the federal government is losing cases. The Nigerian Bar Association and the presidency of Muhammadu Buhari have resolved to work closer with each other in order to ensure a competent judiciary viable enough to attract investors into the country.
There is no doubt that the raiding and arrest of 7 senior judges in October 2016 by the operatives of the DSS has truncated the affairs of the nation's judiciary. It is in this light that the leadership of the Nigerian Bar Association paid an advocacy visit to the prosecution assistant to the president, Muhammadu Buhari. According to them, there is no commotion between the NBA judiciary and the executive, but wants every aspect of the executive to be within the ambit of the law. In his response, Obla stated that government is not interested in fighting any judge, but only interested in the integrity of its entire judiciary, because without credible judicial system, economy cannot grow. Both parties agreed to work together to keep the Nigerian judiciary alive, fight corruption within the confines of the law. Emmanuel Bagudu, PTV News.
Let's take another break. When we return,
We have to work hand in hand in unity, that we proclaim we are united as one, to give the African child empowerment.
don't go away. Justice Gabriel Kolawole of the Federal High Court sitting in Abuja has fixed the 28th of June 2017 for the hearing of the enforcement of human rights suit filed by the Incorporated Trustees of Peace Corps of Nigeria and 48 others against the Nigerian police. The hearing, which was billed for Wednesday, 14th June 2017, was stalled due to the inability of the respondent to serve the applicant with the counter affidavit to serve them on May 19, 2017. The applicant, John Ochogu, accused the Nigerian police for deliberately delaying the hearing of the application sought for the adjourned date. Justice Ahmed Mohammed of the Federal High Court sitting in Abuja, has granted an application for witness protection at the trial of the former National Security Advisor, Sambo Dasuki. Despite resistance from the former National Security Advisor, Sambo Dasuki's counsel, Ahmed Raji, Justice Mohammed delivered ruling in favor of the federal government, who are charging Dasuki of unlawful possession of firearms and money laundering. The trial continues on September 20th, 2017.
My application was not partially granted. My application was granted. I had already withdrawn some part of the application, so what I presented for determination was granted as presented. So what we have now is that the court has already given us a trial date, and by God's grace, we are ready and trial will commence.
It is now time for our Judiciary Watch discuss. We have with us in the studio Mrs. IFEOMA UCHENDU, the alternate coordinator of the African Women Lawyers Association of Nigeria, Abuja chapter. She's going to be giving us an insight on the Day of the African Child, which is celebrated every year. Mrs. WOGU is a lawyer of 25 years standing and an active promoter of human rights of women, children, and the youth, both indigent and the vulnerable. You're welcome, ma.
Thank you very much, Augusta. Thank you for having me here with you.
Okay. Right onto our first question. What brought about the setting aside of 16th of June yearly to celebrate the Day of the African Child?
Thank you very much. 16th of June every year was set aside due to an incident that happened way back in South Africa, where the African children were schooling alongside with their colonial masters' children, the government of the day of South Africa. They were being taught with English language as against what they understood, their language of communication, that is the Swahili languages. So the children felt being cheated. You don't want us to learn. Why would you come and speak a language, a dialect, a lingua that I do not understand? If you have to teach me, then you teach me in the language I understand. And there was a revolution led by one Steve Biko. He was an activist. And then that fateful day, 16th of June, there was mayhem in the land because the government of the day used force to quell this revolution. Hundreds of children died, the South African children. They killed them in hundreds, blood everywhere. And when the African Union of today, which used to be the Organization of African Unity, the governments of all the heads of the African countries came together, they decided to set this date, 16th of June every year, aside. And they reached they made these declarations sometime in 1979 when they met in Liberia.
Okay, thank you very much for that. What is the theme for this year's celebration of the Day of the African Child?
Accelerating protection, empowerment, and equal opportunity for children in Africa by 2030.
Okay. So, what brought about this theme? Why this theme?
This theme came about as a result of the concerns as noted by the governments of the African countries, the continent. The situation most African children suffer today are very critical due to unique factors of their socio-economic, cultural, educational, religious backgrounds that are so unfavorable to them. These children are victims of armed conflicts, exploitation, hunger, natural disasters, you name it. And the African Union, as a body that oversees the general well-being, protection, and welfare of the African child, as codified in the African Declaration for the protection and welfare of the African child, decided to set this theme aside to sensitize all participatory countries, all African countries, and those who help in disseminating these goals to look forward, to look beyond. We are kind of planning ahead. So if we start today, if we accelerate, we have laws that protect the children. The Child Right Act, as domesticated by states, other states that have domesticated the Child Right Act, we call them the child rights laws in each of the states, and some other states are catching up in the nearest future. All the states of the federation would have domesticated, captures all these protections, this welfare, and what you just name it, rights of this African child. And we know definition of a child. For the purpose of the African Charter, a child means any human being below the age of 18. That is the person we are looking at. They are the vulnerable sect. If the government of the African Union does not think ahead, 2030 is barely some 13 years away from today.
Yes.
So we have to work hand in hand in unity, that we proclaim we are united as one, to give the African child empowerment. First of all, we accelerate his or her protection, then we empower the child and give them equal opportunities. No gender disparity, no discrimination, be it a girl child or a male child. So I think this theme is apt for the Nigeria of today. No need to start looking behind to say, oh, this thing cannot be done by a girl child, or is kept aside for a male child. No, our African children are African children, both boys and girls alike. We must promote them. We must accelerate their protection, empowerment, give them equal education, give them equal opportunities. You go out there in the moon, go out there in the seas, go out there in the skies, and do that which a human being should do. That is what the theme of this year is all about.
Okay, wow, that's a powerful theme for this year. So I would like to, just ask a little further about, you mentioned the Child Rights Act, and I believe the states in Nigeria have domesticated most of them. Do you think that these laws are actually functioning properly, in the bid to protect children in Nigeria particularly?
In Nigeria, yes, the laws are functioning. They are being executed. And to give flesh to this, having legislated, the governments of most states have specific courts, not just the juvenile courts that were inherited, the corona courts inherited from the colonial masters. We now have courts that are called family divisions. In our judicial system, we have the family divisions, where we have the family courts. And if the children who have matters, either as a result of broken marriages or as a result of miscreancy and the rest, some children are involved not by their own decision, but by circumstances. That's why we say these vulnerable children have to be protected. They do not try them in the regular courts where the adults sit. They take them to the juvenile courts that is under the family division, and there are laws that protects them. When you are trying a child, or you are conducting a process, a court proceeding that involves children, at times you have to protect these children. The public is bad, but naturally, by the laws of our land, our courts are open to general public view. But when it comes to carrying out proceedings that affects children in certain circumstances, know that they are tried in camera. Such proceedings are done in camera. They don't bring it to the open public. So I tell you, there are legislations and there are sanctions. To every legislation, you must have a sanction. If there's no sanction, then that law, we can call it a toothless bulldog. It can only bark, but it cannot bite. But once we put a sanction to support it, then you know that the law is on ground.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for that. So, Mrs. WOGU, I would like to ask further, what are the benefits that come from celebrating or marking the Day of the African Child?
The benefits are numerous. We have non-for-profit organizations all over the places. We have non-governmental organizations. These organizations that take, in most cases, they have the passion and penchant for advocating for human rights. We have the human rights laws as given down to every nation, every country by the conventions in the United Nations. So if a country has signed on to be a state, a nation state at the United Nations, with the United Nations, then that country is bound by that law. And when they bring it back home, it's legislated upon, it is domesticated by the laws of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And if we go to chapter 4 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, you see all these rights enshrined there, and they are vividly captured. So the benefits of this celebration is to enable us, because strictly put, that act of in the 1970s, 76 or so, that brought about the setting aside of 16th of June every year to mark the celebration, the day of the celebration of the Day of the African Child. Celebration of the Day of the African Child. That particular incident took place in South Africa, and today all African countries are meant to. There are lots of NGOs that come out to protect the human rights of persons. That act, that incident was a violation of the right to education in the language of the Swahili children then. That particular incident, that revolution, was born out of the fact that those children in South Africa then were denied of their own rights. We don't understand this language. The language we understand is this. Why are you teaching us in this language? Because you are naturally, or you want to openly put us behind your own children. And you will agree with me that such things are not absent in our society of today. Even in our present day Nigeria, there is always this struggle, and you see it when it comes to children, youths, both men and female alike. You see that there are certain things that are done culturally. Even by their religious belief, the woman should be at the back and the man should be in front. So these NGOs come out to propagate and enforce and advocate. It is mainly by way of advocacy, and they force our legislative arms of government, both federal and state, to see to what they are saying. It's not violent this time around. It's by negotiation, discussion, persuasion, So they now get it to the level until the actual body that is responsible for writing it down, then they will back it up with sanctions. It's when you violate these rules and laws, as it were, then you now head to the courts, who will interpret it and say whether you are right or you are wrong. So the NGOs, the benefit is that the NGOs, the non-governmental organizations, the civil society groups come out. They are numerous. Is it electioneering? Is it health? Is it, just name it, they come out and say, no, this particular law must be done the way it is. This particular law must be adhered to for the benefit of mankind. So celebration of the International Day of the African Child has brought a lot of benefits to us. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Wow. Okay, so I can see you have this beautiful sash on you here, and I can see the inscription, Aula. So tell us about Aula. We would like to know.
Aula is one of the associations in Nigeria that is specifically set up by the African body. It's a continental body. Aula stands for African Women Lawyers Association. But in Nigeria, we have the Nigerian chapter. So Aula Nigeria is a body that is advocating for the legislation, for the purpose of removing all forms of discrimination against women and children in Africa. And as we are celebrating the Day of the African Child, Aula has a great role to play. Thank you very much.
Okay, so to my last but not the least question. So how is Aula, that is African Women Lawyers Association of Nigeria, how are they ensuring that that the goals and objectives of the African Union, are being enforced, are being put into place, are being implemented in Nigeria?
Thank you very much, Augusta. Very well. Aula has a program of activity every year. They join other associations, join the Federal Republic of Nigeria to celebrate all days that are set aside by United Nations and indeed the African Union. Days of elimination of discrimination, 16 days activism against the woman, days of so many, like the Day of the African Child, the International Day of the Child, the Day of Women. Too many, so numerous. Aula goes out with such themes like as it is given for this year's accelerating protection, empowerment and equal opportunities for the African child, Allah has set up, Allah will go and get their various communities. Let me use the Abuja branch of Allah Nigeria.
Okay.
What Allah Abuja branch did was to select a remote community. Way back behind the Asokoro district, we have a community called Baduma.
Okay.
Allah Abuja went there yesterday, gathered the children, really children, had lunch with them, gave them tea time, and taught them why they should be alert in their environment, why they should be obedient, why they should raise alarm if there are any unforeseen
Like intruders
coming into society. When you see any strange thing, as far even the assistant coordinator went ahead and told the children, if an uncle puts you on his lap and touches you, when your mommy comes back, report. If a stranger enters, these are the advocacy duties that Allah carries out, and you have to choose an indigent setup to do this, because a lot of times these people are out of social media. They don't have light, they don't have television, they don't have good roads, they don't even have good water. You go there and educate the children that one of you can become the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria only if you obey the laws of the land, and we are here to teach you how. That is their advocacy and outreach sessions that they carried out. So Allah Abuja is on track, working hand in hand with all the themes of the United Nations as it relates to Africa and the African Union as it were.
Thank you very much for giving us a wonderful insight into the Day of the African Child. And it's really an honor to have you on this episode of Judiciary Watch.
Thank you for the opportunity. I feel greatly honored. And thank you, People's Television, for doing a great job. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. This is the size of the package we have for you today on Judiciary Watch. I hope you enjoyed our discourse with the Aula representative. Don't forget to send in your comments and contributions to our email and our social media platforms. I remain my humble self, Augusta Yaku. Stay law abiding.